Long before cameras, drones, or research teams ever touched it, the Grand Canyon was already keeping records. Layer after layer, era after era, its stone preserved a history no library could hold. Yet buried inside that vast archive is something that resists classification. In a remote cave beyond marked paths, investigators encountered an object whose presence unsettles established timelines. Its design carries signs of knowledge that simply doesn't line up with the age it was found in, quietly raising questions no one expected to ask. And as we move forward, you're about to see everything unfold piece by piece. So let's begin with Grand Canyon as a time machine. It stands at the edge of the Grand Canyon, never feels like looking at a place. It feels like looking at time itself. Mile after mile of carved stone stretches outward, shaped slowly by the Colorado River, exposing layers that reach back nearly 2 billion years. Every visible band carries the memory of a different world. Ancient seas, shifting deserts, vanished climates. Yet the canyon's power doesn't come only from its scale. It comes from what it quietly holds. Hidden caves cut into its walls, narrow trails twisting into silence. Ecosystems cling to cliffs where life seems impossible. Millions visit each year chasing views, challenge, or solitude, often unaware they're walking across one of the most complete records of Earth ever exposed. This landscape doesn't simply show beauty. It preserves stories. And once you start reading those layers instead of admiring them, the canyon changes. It stops being scenery and becomes evidence, an open archive where every depth hints at something waiting to be uncovered. Collapse in the Grand Canyon. Sometimes the canyon doesn't reveal its past gently. Sometimes it breaks it open. In 2016, a section of cliff collapsed deep within the Grand Canyon, sending tons of stone crashing down into a remote stretch below. When the dust settled, Norwegian geologist Alan Krill, guiding students through the area, noticed something unusual among the fallen slabs. Pressed into the newly exposed rock were fossilized footprints, delicate, unmistakable, and impossibly old. A closer study showed they belonged to two creatures that crossed a dune roughly 313 million years ago, long before the canyon even existed. Over unimaginable spans of time, that dune hardened into stone, then waited until a sudden collapse finally exposed its surface again. The tracks were later confirmed as the oldest known vertebrate footprints in the Grand Canyon. More than fossils, they were moments preserved. Proof that entire lives once moved across landscapes, now locked deep inside the canyon's walls. The great unconformity. What makes the Grand Canyon unsettling isn't only what appears in its layers, it's what's missing from them. Geologists have long been puzzled by a feature known as the Great Unconformity, a massive gap in the canyon's geological record where nearly 1 billion years of Earth's history simply disappear. Entire eras should exist between certain rock layers, yet they're gone. One leading example of a frozen chapter in our planet's history is Snowball Earth, a period when glaciers may have spread across much of the surface, grinding away mountains and stripping entire layers from existence. Another possibility suggests those rocks never formed here at all. Neither answer fully satisfies what's seen in the stone. Between the younger sandstone and the ancient metamorphic rock lies absence. No slow transition, no gradual story, just a missing chapter on a planetary scale. The Great Unconformity doesn't show what happened. It shows that something powerful enough occurred to erase time itself from the canyon's walls. Cave of the Domes. Getting away from the crowds changes the Grand Canyon in a way photographs never capture. The air grows quieter, footsteps soften, and eventually the trail stops feeling like a path and starts feeling like a decision. Near Horseshoe Mesa. At the end of the Grandview Trail, that decision leads to the Cave of the Domes, the only official cave in the canyon open to the public. Inside, the world tightens. Dry chambers stretch into darkness. Limestone domes rise overhead, shaped by erosion over spans too long to imagine. Sound behaves differently down here. Even breathing seems louder. Along the walls, faint signatures left by visitors more than a century ago still linger, small human gestures preserved in stone. Today, names go into a book instead of the rock, but the presence remains. The Cave of the Domes doesn't overwhelm with size. It unsettles with stillness. It feels less like entering a space and more like being quietly absorbed into one. Uranium mining. Nothing about the Grand Canyon prepares you for the idea that something poisonous could be working its way through it. Yet along its outer edges, uranium mining has left a history that doesn't fade as easily as footprints. Beginning in the 1950s, operations like the Orphan Mine started pulling radioactive material from the ground just miles from Grand Canyon Village. Although many of these sites sit outside official park boundaries, contamination doesn't recognize borders. Uranium can leach into soil. It can migrate through groundwater. It can settle invisibly into springs relied on by wildlife and nearby communities. At least 8 mines have operated around the park, and one still threatens water sources inside the canyon itself. Laws now restrict new claims, but existing rights continue to allow extraction. The danger isn't dramatic. It's slow, chemical, patient. While visitors admire cliffs and sunsets, unseen particles move beneath the surface. The canyon may look untouched. What flows through it tells a more complicated story. Nautiloid Fossil 1 of the strangest feelings the Grand Canyon can give you is realizing that dry stone once held waves. Pulled from the Kaibab Formation, a coiled Nautiloid fossil offers quiet proof. Finding a sea creature so far inland feels wrong at first, until the canyon's deeper history steps in. Around 270 million years ago, this region sat beneath a shallow sea. The limestone layers towering overhead are its last remaining shoreline. The fossil itself comes from an ancient relative of modern squids and octopuses, a creature that once drifted across the seafloor using tentacles to gather food. What makes this particular specimen more than a curiosity is its status as a holotype, the first fossil used to define and name an entirely new species. It isn't just evidence of life. It's a reference point, a marker used by science to organize what once swam where desert wind now moves. The canyon doesn't only remember land, it remembers oceans. Grand Canyon Cavern, Hotel. Forget what you think a hotel stay is supposed to feel like, because this one rewrites the idea completely. The Grand Canyon Cavern Hotel doesn't sit beside the land. It disappears into it. Its most famous suite rests 220 feet beneath the surface, carved inside a cavern more than 65 million years old. This isn't just any underground chamber. It's the largest dry cavern in the United States, formed from limestone back when this entire region lay beneath an ancient sea. When you book the room, the cavern becomes yours alone. No traffic, no wind, no daylight, just silence and stone. Long before it became a destination, the site served as a well-known stop along old Route 66, built to draw travelers underground instead of onward. Today, guided tours lead visitors through the caverns, and for those willing, the night can be spent inside them. Sleeping there isn't about comfort, it's about presence. Horseshoe Canyon. Petroglyphs. West of Green River and north of Canyonlands National Park in Utah lies Horseshoe Canyon, a place best known for its extraordinary petroglyphs and pictographs, often called Barrier Canyon-style rock art. These images weren't painted on. They were uncovered, scratched, picked, and carved through dark stone to reveal lighter layers beneath. Humans have returned to this canyon for thousands of years, dating back to around 9000 BC, when Paleo-Indians hunted mastodons and mammoths across the region. Native peoples continued living here until roughly 1300 AD. The most striking display sits within the Great Gallery, a massive panel stretching about 200 feet long and 15 feet high. Life-sized human-like figures rise across its surface, some reaching nearly 7 feet tall. Remarkably preserved, the artwork doesn't just decorate stone, it quietly watches over time. Shasta ground sloth. The word sloth usually brings to mind something gentle and slow, clinging to branches like a living ornament. That image collapses the moment you step back into prehistory. Giant ground sloths once dominated parts of the ancient world. One of their relatives, Megatherium from South America, could weigh up to 4 tons, rivaling elephants in mass, standing upright as the largest walking mammals ever recorded. They weren't strict carnivores, but their size allowed them to hunt as well as forage. In the Grand Canyon, slightly smaller yet still massive Shasta ground sloths roamed during the last ice age, when the region was cooler, wetter, and thick with vegetation. Their remains were later discovered inside canyon caves, bones alongside preserved fur, and even ancient droppings that reportedly still carry a scent. The cave's dry, stable conditions protected these traces for nearly 11,000 years. Pseudoscorpions. You don't expect fear to come in something small, but caves have a way of changing how size feels. Between 2005 and 2007, researchers exploring a cave system in the northern part of the Grand Canyon came across a pair of tiny creatures that immediately caught their attention. At first glance, they looked like scorpions. Strange ones, possibly undocumented. What followed was 7 years of careful study before scientists confirmed they were looking at an entirely new species. They were named Pseudoscorpions. They resemble scorpions, but they don't carry a venomous tail stinger. Instead, their venom sits in their pincers. Perfectly adapted to life underground, these creatures had evolved without eyes, shaped entirely for darkness. Though only about 2 inches long, they are built for survival in places most life can't tolerate. In a cave where sound travels differently and light doesn't exist at all, even something this small can feel unsettling underfoot. Chiricahua leopard frog. The Chiricahua leopard frog takes its name from the dark spots across its skin, markings that resemble a leopard's coat. These frogs live across the southwestern United States, including regions surrounding the Grand Canyon. They were first identified in the Chiricahua Mountains of Arizona in the late 1800s, when their presence in ponds and springs was common. Today, that picture has changed. Drying water sources and a destructive fungal disease have pushed the species into serious decline. The Chiricahua leopard frog is now considered vulnerable to extinction and has vanished from nearly 80% of its former habitats. It isn't the frog itself that unsettles scientists. It's what its absence signals. When a species so closely tied to clean, stable water begins to vanish, it reflects deeper stress moving through the entire ecosystem, often long before humans notice anything wrong. Supai Village. If you follow the canyon far enough inward, roads eventually surrender. What replaces them is Supai Village, one of the most isolated communities in the United States. Tucked deep within the Havasupai Indian Reservation, the village can only be reached by foot, horseback, or helicopter. Around 200 residents call it home, forming a tight-knit Native American community surrounded by towering red rock walls, turquoise pools, and waterfalls that seem almost unreal. Despite its remoteness, Supai draws visitors from around the world who come not only for the scenery, but for the experience of entering a place still shaped by geography more than convenience. Travelers hike the challenging trail or ride mules into the canyon, and overnight stays offer a rare chance to witness daily life in a setting largely untouched by modern sprawl. Just beyond the village lie Mooney Falls and Havasu Falls, where cascading water meets blue pools. Supai isn't a destination. It's a living presence. E. coli in the canyon. You don't walk into the Grand Canyon expecting something microscopic to be the real threat. Yet in August 2023, something deeply unsettling surfaced at the very bottom of it. Tests detected E. coli in the water near Phantom Ranch, the only lodging at the canyon's base, and a destination reached only by those willing to make the demanding descent. E. coli bacteria naturally exist in the environment and inside humans and animals, and most strains are harmless. But some can cause serious illness, including severe diarrhea, urinary tract infections, and pneumonia. Its presence in water almost always signals fecal contamination. Drinking it untreated can lead to dangerous health consequences. The discovery served as a blunt reminder of a rule wilderness experts repeat for a reason. Never drink natural water without treating it first. Even water that looks pure can carry invisible risks. The Grand Canyon's beauty suggests safety. Its reality doesn't promise it. Salamander-like footprints. Long before mammals, before trees, before anything resembling a familiar world, life was already leaving its marks. Some of the oldest fossils in the Grand Canyon date between 1.2 billion and 740 million years old, including stromatolites formed by photosynthesizing cyanobacteria preserved in limestone. Over time, the canyon accumulated an extraordinary fossil record tracing the evolution of life itself. One of its most debated layers is the Coconino Sandstone, formed about 275 million years ago from vast wind-blown desert dunes. Today, that formation is packed with fossilized tracks, including lizard-like and salamander-shaped footprints. These impressions sparked intense controversy, particularly among creationist groups who reject scientific timelines. Some claim the tracks formed after Noah's flood, insisting wet sand could only exist then, dismissing the idea of ancient seas or deserts. According to them, the footprints are 6,000 years old, not hundreds of millions. Science, however, reads a very different story in stone. The Grand Canyon doesn't just hold views. It holds stories, questions, and reminders that our planet still carries far more history than certainty. If this journey left you thinking, then share your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. And don't leave without giving us a like, subscribe, and explore the next video waiting on your screen.